Welcome to Papa Wes Adventures. In this episode, I traveled from New Braunfels, Texas out to Fort Lancaster, Texas. Then I made my way up to Cloudcroft, then San Lorenzo Canyon, then up to Pagosa Springs, over to South Fork, Colorado. Checked around South Fork for the day, and then the next I drove over to Red River where I camped out, and then I was intending to go to a place called Montezuma, New Mexico, near Las Vegas, and unfortunately there was a huge forest fire that ended my trip several days early. From there I drove back through New Mexico into the panhandle of Texas, finally returning home. So on the first day I headed out about 7 o'clock in the morning and took off on Highway 46 west, going out towards Boerne. When I got to Boerne, I got onto Interstate 10 and went out to Ozona. Just past Ozona, just a few miles, there's a cutoff that takes you over to Fort Lancaster Scenic Overlook. This was a total of 249 miles. Alright, we are coming up to Fort Lancaster. This is a state historical site. It's one of the old military posts from the Wild West days when they had forts out here. And it looks to be pretty scenic. There's a scenic overlook. I'm going to pull over here. And wow, look at that canyon. I hope I can get some better shots of that. See what it looks like. Whoa, that is freaking awesome. All right, so I'm going to pull up next to the historical markers, and there are several. So I'm going to get out and I'll start this back up. But wow, look at that. All right. After I pulled over, started filming, the wind was way too strong. You couldn't hear anything but the wind blowing on the microphone. But I came in the way the camera's pointed right now. The highway's off to the left, you can just barely see it. And then this is a free camping spot. You can overnight camp here. There are no places to put up tents unless you want to do it on the asphalt. There were 3 historical markers here. One of them indicated that this was part of the old stagecoach route from the east over to El Paso. Another one said it was part of the Chihuahua Trail. And then another story had to do with while on the trail, a Franciscan monk prayed for water, put his walking staff down on the ground, and a well appeared. And ever since then, this became a very popular spot for travelers. Right, it is 4:17 Mountain Standard Time. We are currently in Artesia, New Mexico. We are approximately 90 miles yet from Cloudcroft, which is today's destination, and that's to the city. And then I think it's like 10 miles out of town where there's BLM land that that's where I'm going to try to find a camp spot for the night, set up, enjoy the night. It is currently 73 degrees here, and yeah, it's nice and pleasant. There's no clouds, there's a little wind, not much. It's barely moving the flags. So looks like it's going to be a really nice time, but 73 is the high here, which means I'm still going up in elevation, so I expect that tomorrow morning, first thing in the morning, should be near mid-30s, I would presume. Now, this spot on the railroad we call the Mexican Canyon Trestle. It's also known as the Cloud Climbing Railroad. One of the engineers was reported to say, well, if I go too slow, the logs jump off, and if I go too fast, the cars jump off. The train climbed 26 miles and 4,000 feet into the mountains. For the people aboard, spectacular vistas unfolded, accompanied by moments of exhilaration while crossing the wooden trestles. The railroad was known as the cloud climbing route because at this high altitude, the train often passed through the clouds. So after I explored this railroad trestle for a while, I decided I needed to go find my camp spot for the night. So I headed out south of town on the old Sunspot Highway and then found a couple of offshoot roads in BLM land and finally found this spot. There was no one else around. It had been well maintained. There was very little trash, a couple of fireplace pits, and pretty much had it to ourselves for the night. And now that the tent site is set up, it's time for supper. So I've got my Jeep rigged with all of my supplies that I can open up the back tailgate. I've got this drop down table that I installed. I use a single burner propane cook stove, and tonight I'm making chili, which I already cooked, and I start water heating up so I can clean the pot and dishes. And then once I'm through cleaning up, then I'll refill that pot and have it ready to go for the next morning to make coffee, so I don't have to worry about doing it when it's really cold. Everything else folds up pretty quickly, and I put it back in the Jeep for safekeeping overnight. This is a pretty fast and efficient way to cook my food. So after my evening meal, cleaning up, making sure the campsite was secure, Zane and I sat out in the chair and listened to the night sounds up in the mountains, up in the woods. And it was awesome. We heard all kinds of varmints and owls and other things moving around. And it was quite a pleasant evening. The next morning, we woke up, cooked our breakfast, did a little bit more walking around in the canyon, exploring for future, see if it's a place we want to come back to. Then we finally broke camp, got ready to get underway. So after breaking camp, getting the Jeep packed up, everything loaded, double checked the campsite, pick up all trash, we headed into Cloudcroft, went to the gas station, fueled up to start with, and then we drove around town a little bit, looking at the downtown area. Now this is off season, it's April, so there's not a whole lot going on. The ski resorts are closed and most people aren't up camping yet. School's still in session. But yeah, we drove around. It's a pretty interesting little town. Definitely will want to go back. So on day 2, which was April 26th, the plan was to leave Cloudcroft early in the morning with enough time to not be rushed, but to be able to drive and see the scenery and make my way up to Socorro, New Mexico, and then head north just a few miles and then over to what's called San Lorenzo Canyon. This was approximately 169 miles. The temperatures started out 28 degrees in the morning, below freezing, and then by the time I got to San Lorenzo Canyon that afternoon, it was up in the 70s. this point, I was following my GPS, and it kept telling me to go to the next overpass, which was 11 miles down the highway, and then get off on the access road and backtrack 11 miles. And that was the only way to cross over to the other side of the highway. But the road did not connect all the way through. So after about an hour of attempting to do this, I finally turned the GPS off, just got the map out and started looking at potential ways to get where I wanted to go, which led me to this intersection. And then it got all confusing again. Alright, after 4 attempts of finding the right route to get to this canyon, San Lorenzo Canyon, I have found it. There it is, a sign that says this way. So we're now off the main road onto a dirt road. Drive on designated routes, travel, respect rights, educate, avoid, sensitive, do your part. Okay, got it. Alright, so we're on the dirt road going out to the canyon. It took 4 different attempts to find the way underneath. Google Earth or Google Maps was taking me one way. Gaia Apps went to Google and was agreeing with that, and it took me about 4 miles north and tried to take me through a wildlife refuge, which was not where I wanted to go at all. Alright, so this is Treasure Falls. It's about 10 miles outside of Pagosa Springs. And it's really good right now. coming up to the turnoff. You're going to really want to watch because there is a blind curve coming at you where people coming up this way would not necessarily see you turning. And when you're cutting across the road, especially pulling a trailer, you need to be excruciatingly careful to make sure you get off the road as quickly as you can. And then as soon as you turn in, you're going to be crossing over the Rio Grande River. This is the West Fork. And there's a wooden bridge. It's a one-lane bridge, so watch ahead. You do have the right of way to come in. Anytime I go off-road and up into the mountains, I make sure that I have a full tank of fuel. So before I head up, I'm going to head on into South Fork and fill up with fuel and get a bite to eat. Alright, I'm now at the center of town. This is the junction of Highway 160 and Colorado 149. 149 takes you up towards Creed, which is an absolutely beautiful drive, and the city is fantastic. They've got a great little restaurant there that I love to eat at, and they've got a lot of mines and things like that in the area, plus the only underground fire station that I am knowledgeable about. You can take tours of that. They have a mining museum, but then you can drive around on what's called the Bachelor's Loop. So it's really a cool place. Oh, it's even about snow. Oh, you're on snow. Is that good? Dirty. Ugh. Go get him! Go get him! Okay. Mule deer. Bunch of them. So as I passed through Del Norte, Colorado on Highway 160 headed eastbound, I spotted a herd of buffalo on the side of the road in a pasture and decided to pull over and get a little bit closer look. Several hundred miles later on the way into Red River, New Mexico, I came across 4 or 5 bighorn sheep that were coming down off the cliffs and going down to Red River, presumably to graze and get something to drink. So I'm in Red River, New Mexico right now, and I'm on what's called the Pioneer Trail, which is a off-road and four-wheel drive only road. I don't know how far it goes. Federal mining claims. Okay. There are mines up this road. Campsite over there. Let's see, we just left it pop up. Just saw some chipmunks running across the road. And there's a mine right there. Alright, I'm gonna back up so I can get you over there close enough to take a look at it. I can't read that sign. Alright, so we're just a little bit outside of Red River. I cannot read this at all. It's really faded, but there is a mine right here. Mine shaft. I'm not going to go in it. Right at the base of this little rock formation. Makes you wonder how the miners decided, let's start digging here versus 2 feet to the left, 2 feet to the right, or a mile away from here. Always has amazed me. I mean, back in the day, before they had all the electronics that they have now, I'm going with, this is the end of the road. I do not have my chainsaw. I have an axe and I've got a little handsaw, but no chainsaw, and I'm not about to tackle this with those. So I'm going with, I'm gonna turn around and head back into town, check things out there, and then yeah, we'll see what happens. I've got another road that I can go up on that I've camped out years and years ago. We'll see how that works. All right, so it took us about 10 minutes. I'm not completely set up, but 90% set up. The only thing I have to do is get the bedding out and put it inside the tent. We are set up right here, and I'm not even going to put the awning out tonight. I don't think we'll need it. Weather's supposed to be really good, but although we can't use it, we've got a fire ring here. There's a extreme fire ban. So I'll put my 3-inch memory foam mattress that's doubles as Zena's bed while we're traveling. It goes in the back seat. And then when we get to a camp and we're going to sleep overnight, we take it out. And then I'll put it in here. So we'll have 3 inches of foam off the ground. And then the blankets, I have 3, plus a fitted sheet that goes over the memory foam. And then my pillow, of course. So I'll put the 3 blankets in there. I don't know what the temperature is going to get down to, but this is pretty isolated back up in here. It's in a canyon. Lots and lots of trees all the way around. Plus, we're that far from a creek. Still got ice in it. There's a little waterfall, beaver dam from last year. A bunch of snow up on the hill that's still melting. So we've got our sound effects for the night. Our campsite is set up. I think it's about 2:45 in the afternoon. Right now we did a little bit more exploring, 4-wheel drive, driving around. And I had another spot. Yeah, it was kind of awesome, but I don't know what the rules are. It went up just a little bit of a hill, and it was a little bit farther off the road, so it would have had more privacy. Not that I'm expecting a lot of people through here. And we're almost at the dead end where a tree fell across the road, so nobody's going to get past us here. But yeah, bottom line, I think this will work out great for the night. Might have to move that tent. It's a little bit more of a slope. I'll lay down in there and see. If I keep rolling off the mattress, I'll have to move it a little bit. But that's a matter of picking up 4 stakes and relocating it, so that won't be hard. But I'm going to sit here and enjoy the quiet. Zena's been swimming, so she's wet and currently in the process of drying off. She's a happy camper. Getting here right by our creek bed. So, yeah. Good morning. This is Friday, our 5th day out on the camping trail. It is 39 degrees outside at 8 o'clock. We've been up since around 6, which is 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. Beautiful sunrise this morning. Did some hiking, cooked breakfast, had my coffee, broke camp down, took my time doing that, and Zena chased off a pilfering squirrel. We went hiking. When we came back, there was a squirrel at the campsite. Didn't get into anything, but was trying to. So we're about to head back down the mountain and leave this campsite and head to our next destination, which I think is going to be Montezuma. That'll be west of Las Vegas. So when I get to Mora, from here we're going to go through Red River, Eagle's Nest, Angel Fire, then down to Mora. And when I get to Mora, I'm going to check my map thoroughly and see if there's a route that we could take without having to go all the way around to Las Vegas. So, without further ado, let's get going. This is Friday. It's day 5 of the week-long camping trip so far. We're coming from Red River, headed towards Eagle's Nest. We're up in the mountains, and I think we're in the 8,000 foot elevation, something like that. It is, what time? 8:40 Mountain Time, which back in Central Standard would be 9:40. This time of year, it's not unusual to see elk down in this area. In fact, there are some right over there, which I don't know if I can get stopped. Yes, I can. Alright, so give me just a second, because they're looking at me and I don't know if they're going to stay put. Alright, so there's two of them. They're on the other side of the creek bed. Dead center of the picture. One's walking up. They're both cows. But they were definitely elk. Alright, coming into the town of Mora.
1,000 feet, turn left.
There are some of these old adobe brick buildings and houses. And then this old rock structure, the St. Vrain Mill, it says. There's a water wheel. This is one of my favorite buildings on the trip up to that area. It's an old mill that is defunct, but they're trying to restore it. It's seen way better days. What you see on the screen right there is the old water wheel, and somehow or another they diverted the flow of the water where it would catch those blades and spin the wheel, and then there was an axle that went into this building. That hasn't worked in 120 years, I think it said. But the building itself is starting to fall apart, plus many people come by here, and apparently some just, for whatever reason, have a notion to deface property, so they take artifacts and yeah. So they're trying to restore this. They do have a community fund set up and they're doing their best, but the building is in dire need of structural work. And I'll swing the camera up here and you'll see where the building is really coming apart, and they're going to have to fix that before they can use it anymore. My plans for tonight was to make my way to a place called Montezuma, New Mexico. It's just outside of Las Vegas, New Mexico. But as I come into the city of Mora, I saw smoke on the horizon, and then as I got closer and closer, the smoke got bigger, and I finally stopped and talked to somebody and found out that they have a major forest fire. And as it turns out, this fire had started in early April, like the 19th, at a campground. Somebody left a fire unattended, and it grew, and the fire was not actually extinguished until July 22nd, and it required over 750 firefighters, I don't know how many airplanes, fire trucks, and dozers and what have you, but it was the largest fire ever in the state of New Mexico. So needless to say, this put an end to my concept of camping there, and I had to start heading back towards Texas. So I'm on the highway between Mora and Las Vegas, and there has been an active forest fire here. Right along the road, it's showing grass. Didn't burn the trees as badly. And there's evidence of airdrops. And I've got police and fire running emergency back and forth. There's a truck up here stopped on the side of the road. And it looks pretty intense back up in the mountains. where I wanted to go. So I'm not going to go up to Montezuma today. I don't want to add to the problems. But we'll wait and see what's going on. There was some red mud on the road back behind me. Some more state police going by. Tanker truck sitting here watching hot spots. Fun job. More state police coming at me. So after traveling through Las Vegas and heading south, there's a couple of places where there's some old ranch ruins, and I stopped to take a few photos and stretch our legs. And then we started headed back towards Texas, only to find more field fires. So another one of the episodes of Papa West Adventures has come to a conclusion. As you can see, I'm back here at home, safe and sound, sitting by the fire thinking about where I'm going to go out on my next adventure. If you like the content in this video, please think about subscribing to the channel, hit that like button, share with other people if you don't mind, and I'd appreciate any comments you would like to leave. Thanks again. See you on the next one.